Hello and welcome to Nothing But the Truth. How is the Congress faring in opposition and how effectively is it able to check the government? Those are the twin issues I shall discuss today with the Congress Party's Deputy Leader in the Lok Sabha, Capt Amarinder Singh. Captain Singh, let's start with the Leader of Opposition issue. It's exactly 6 weeks since this Parliament first met on the 4th of June. It's almost 2 weeks since it began, and yet no decision has been taken on this critical post. How do you interpret this delay?
I think it's a very unfortunate thing. We had been to see the Speaker. Of course, the leader went earlier to speak, Mr. Kharge. And then subsequently he and I and Chief Whip went. And we talked to her and we gave it to her in writing. And she said she would look into the matter.
And that was 10 days ago on the 9th of July?
Yes, absolutely. And there's
what response has she given you? No action at all?
At all.
No response at all?
No response so far. I hope something will happen on Monday. Let's see.
So the position is, as of this moment, 10 days after you met her, she is silent, no response?
No response.
Now your spokesman don't hide the fact that they believe Mr. Modi and the BJP are determined to deny this post to your party. Is that still your view?
Yes, it is our view, because she wouldn't have taken a decision on her own. She would have waited for the Prime Minister to return and then discussed it with him. And I don't know why the Prime Minister is doing this, because that's a small thing. I mean, here, you know, you must remember that the LOP now is much more important than it was perhaps 35 or 40 years ago.
But you're saying two very important things. You're saying, first of all, the Speaker has deliberately delayed a decision.
That's what I believe.
She wants to consult the Prime Minister.
I believe so.
So she will be influenced by the Prime Minister when she decides?
Well, I'm sure. Otherwise, why does it take her 10 days to decide this? I mean, that is a one-day decision.
Which means she's not completely objective and independent on this issue.
Yes, I think so. I think she's new in this job, and I think she doesn't want to take a decision on her own.
So whatever decision she takes will be a reflection of the preference of the Prime Minister?
That I believe so, yes.
And you're convinced that the Prime Minister doesn't want you to have this post?
And I find that very strange. Forget about this. They don't, even the seating in the front, they've been cribbing about, and that you can't have 3 seats, you can have 2 seats. And then similarly on this issue of the Leader of the Opposition, I believe that they are just trying to, I don't say get it back on us, but certainly it is something which is rattling them, which they want us to be pushed to the side.
Is Congress being treated betterly, perhaps even unfairly?
I think so. I think so. Now you tell me one thing, Karan. You have statutory requirements for this Leader of the Opposition, because today things like the Chief Vigilance Commission and all, the Leader of the Opposition must be there. If you don't have a Leader of the Opposition, then everything they will sit and do everything on their own.
I hear what you're saying. I'll simply point out for the audience that there is a counter-argument to it. I don't want to actually go into the arguments about the legitimacy of it, because that will be questioned by lawyers. It might even be questioned in court. What I want to put to you is this. If at the end of the day that critical post is denied to Congress, will you go to court?
Maybe, yes, that is an option open to us. And if this is going to happen, and if they're going to treat the Congress party in this manner, then it's an option that we can explore, yes.
So there could be a situation where the Congress party takes the Speaker's decision to the Supreme Court, questioning its legality and questioning perhaps its bigger political morality.
I think so. I think, of course, this has to be discussed with our legal people, but certainly, yes, I think this is an option that I personally favor, and I'm sure my colleagues in Parliament favor too.
Now, many people fear that if at the end of the day this critical post is denied to Congress, it could affect Congress's attitude and behavior in Parliament. You could become at that point an obstructionist party. Will that happen?
No, I don't think so. No, that's certainly not going to happen. We are going to be a constructive opposition. We've said so from day one. And our objective is to present the case of the nation to the people, not to the Speaker. And it's going to go through the discussions in Parliament.
So even if this issue of the post of the Leader of the Opposition ends up in court, you will not be obstructionist on the floor of the House?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. We will take every issue at a time and discuss it and let the people of India decide on their own.
Now, a second issue that's likely to come up in the Lok Sabha is the Deputy Speakership. Does Congress believe it has a claim to that post, or are you happy for the TMC or the AIA-DMK to get it?
No, you tell me, in case, no, you know, as I told you, I've been out of Parliament for a week, so I don't really know what's been going on regarding the Deputy
But in terms of a moral claim?
But certainly, if you are not being given a third seat in the front row, if you're not being given the leader of the opposition, then why are they going to give us a deputy speaker? They'll give it to somebody else.
But would you consider that unfairness, or would you believe that that is perhaps something?
Of course it's unfair. The leader of the opposition is always the deputy speaker.
Well, let me tell you why it might not be unfair, because in
Not leader, but I mean the opposition, which is there in large numbers, has its own deputy speaker.
But the reason why it might be unfair is because in 1985, when Rajiv Gandhi had an overwhelming majority of well over 400, he actually gave the deputy speakership to Thambi Durai of the AIADMK, who only had 12 seats, overlooking the TDP with 30 and the CPM with 22. Now that has established a precedent, and if it's used against you this time around to give the deputy speakership to TMC or perhaps to AIADMK, surely you can't complain.
Well, you know, things happen from time to time. 85 and now, how many, 30 years ago. I mean, times have changed, and I think people should realize certainly that a deputy speaker, what the constitutional provision is, it should be done according to that.
So you believe that both on the leadership of the opposition, yes, as well as on the deputy speakership, Congress has a legitimate claim?
Absolutely.
And you believe that in fact you would have been treated unfairly or pettily if it's denied to you?
Absolutely. It is unfair. It's totally unfair. I have been chief minister. I know how to treat, how the opposition is, what we used to do. We used to do exactly what I'm telling you what we used to do.
All right. Let's leave these issues aside. You've indicated very clearly where your party stands. You've indicated that you feel you will be treated unfairly if these posts are denied to you. Let me now come to the way in which Congress is effectively checking this government on the floor of the House. And let me discuss with you the two issues where Congress has taken fairly high-profile stands, and ask you whether you think you've been effective or whether in fact your party has bungled. To begin with, the TRAI bill. Your party made it clear on the floor of the House, as well as in television studios, that this was something you were adamantly opposed to. And yet the bill sailed through both houses without any trouble whatsoever. Would you accept that was a setback for Congress?
Well, as I said, I wasn't there in the last week when this matter went through. So what exactly was discussed in the meeting before the bill came in and bill was passed, I'm not aware. I'm not aware of that. But there must have been a reason. Otherwise, it's not. It wouldn't have happened.
I fully accept that you weren't in Parliament at the time, and so there's no personal responsibility as deputy leader that you bear.
That.
But let me put this to you. In the Lok Sabha to begin with, you were deserted by the TMC. On day one, Saugata Roy opposed not just the bill, but its very introduction. 24 hours later, his colleague Sudip Bandyopadhyay not only welcomed the bill, he said the Prime Minister had a right to bring anyone in as his principal secretary. At that point, did your party feel that you were deserted or let down by the TMC? Because after all, you'd taken a stand together, and then they deserted you 24 hours later.
Well, I can't speak on what the TMC did, but certainly on this case, like this bill is concerned, I personally believe that I'm sure our party has taken a very considered view. Earlier, perhaps it was a view which they decided later on to change.
But do you feel that your party was let down by TMC? You've taken a joint stand together and then they deserted you.
I don't think let down, but they must have also done some introspection, and they must have looked at things the way they look at things and talk to their people in Calcutta.
You know,
and
it wasn't just in the Lok Sabha that the Congress looked as if it had suffered a reverse of the TRAI bill. In the Rajya Sabha, it was even worse. The TMC, the AIADMK, the BSP, the SP, all of whom have been your allies not so long ago, voted with the government. Congress was left isolated with just the left and the RJD for company. Wasn't that embarrassing?
No, Karan, sometimes you take a decision on something, or you take a view. And then when that comes in for discussion, you've probably had many discussions before you bring it into Parliament and take a stand in Parliament. And I think at that stage, these probably, both in the Rajya Sabha, our leaders there, and also our leaders here in the Lok Sabha, have taken a considered view and decided to go ahead the way they did.
Absolutely. But in both the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha, people who should have been with you opposed to the government actually ended up deserting you and siding with the government, and it looked as if Congress, instead of cementing the opposition around it and becoming stronger, was becoming isolated and weaker.
No, I don't think isolated, because there are many things. I mean, like for instance, when I was there and we had this, the TMC was supporting us fully. They're probably going issue to issue on that. I cannot
People turn around and say that in fact the TRAI bill is a classic case of proving that as an opposition party, Congress lacks punch. Firstly, you must remember that we are only 44 members in a large house.
and we are given very little time to speak, which we do. We speak whatever time we do, get on various issues. But to expect us to have the same punch as if we were 210, it's not going to be the case.
So the reality people have to bear in mind before they criticize Congress's performance as an opposition party is that you simply don't have numbers to be more effective.
We say, give our views, they go in, we are carried by your channels and various other things, and it's recorded in Parliament.
But on the floor of the House, numbers count.
Numbers count.
All right, let's take a second issue where Congress took a very high profile. Clearly your attempt was to check the government, and once again people say you bungled. I'm talking about Ved Pratap Vaidik's meeting with Hafiz Saeed. You should have been able to embarrass the government, but when Anand Sharma, your deputy leader in the Rajya Sabha, stood up and demanded, shouting practically, that Vaidik should be arrested, people said, good heavens, has Congress gone nuts? On what grounds was the deputy leader demanding that a journalist be arrested because the journalist had done what every journalist considers his duty? And suddenly, instead of turning opinion against the government, Anand Sharma turned opinion against Congress.
Well, let me tell you one thing. I am totally in agreement with Anand Sharma on this issue.
That Vaidik should be arrested?
Not being arrested. But certainly there must be an investigation done as to what is this fellow doing, going to Hafiz Saeed and having an interview with him. How did he go? Hafiz Saeed is under strict security in Lahore. Nobody can enter or leave that house unless the authorities want it. The ISI wants it, or the army wants it, or somebody wants it.
But Home you know, Captain Singh, listen to yourself. You're taking a very measured and deliberately different stand to that of Anand Sharma. You're saying an investigation is needed, answers to how he met him.
Yes, because he's an RSS man, and the RSS, on the other hand, gives a statement to say that he's doing it's in the larger interest of the country.
What you're saying is perhaps what the party should have said, but in fact, what your deputy leader in the Rajya Sabha said was not a call for an investigation.
Well, maybe he was upset at this.
Arrest.
Here is a man who was responsible for orchestrating this Bombay raid, and how many people have been killed there, and what has happened. And I think he's absolutely justified in sort of expressing his views.
So you're saying
maybe his views were a bit extreme, yes. But the fact is that I think Hafiz Saeed is a man, is persona non grata with all Indians, and I don't think this fellow should have gone and then be supported by the RSS.
Let me ask you two critical questions, and they hinge on the fact that you said maybe Anand Sharma's views were a bit extreme. Do you accept that in fact for a leader of the opposition to demand that a journalist be arrested for simply doing his duty of interviewing was a mistake? It may have happened as a result of passion, but it was a mistake.
I am for a strong line on this. Are
you for arrest?
Not for arrest, but certainly I am for something. This man should be questioned thoroughly as to how can you go with the #1 enemy of the state. The Americans have put a $10 million bounty on him. And we have claimed that he is the leader of the Bombay raid, where so many of our people were killed. And then we should go and sit comfortably in a sofa and chat with him. I don't agree with
I'm going to pluck out of that answer a critical part of what you said. You don't agree with Anand Sharma when he demanded the arrest of Vaidik. That was an error.
I said an investigation.
An
investigation may eventually lead to arrest.
But you are not demanding the arrest per se at this stage.
Straight away to demand an arrest, we will have to find out who's done this, who's behind it. Sushma has today said that the government...
Let me tell you a second area...
Let me tell you that the embassy's got nothing to do with it. Obviously, that means... Sushma has said so. Obviously, that means that he has got contacts in the ISI or that. I think these are all investigations.
An investigation may well be necessary, it may be desirable. That is a prerogative of the Congress party to demand. But I'm underlining something. That Captain Amarinder Singh, the deputy leader in the Lok Sabha, does not believe that at this stage the arrest
is immediate arrest, yes.
Is not right.
Is immediate arrest, yes, but investigate him, and if then it's found that he is dabbling around with this sort of politics.
When you say an immediate arrest, you're saying in fact it's not necessary, it's not needed, it shouldn't be called for at this stage.
No. I said that you must first investigate him, and if you find that the man is into this, into these extremist organizations in Pakistan, then yes, arrest is the next stage, and investigation is the next stage.
All right. A second issue where people feel that perhaps the Congress party bungled is when Rahul Gandhi, speaking publicly outside Parliament, said he's curious and wants to know whether the Indian High Commission has facilitated Vaidik's meeting with Hafiz Saeed, and that presumes that the High Commission has the capacity to facilitate such meetings, and you can only make that presumption if it's done this sort of thing in your time.
I think the Foreign Minister has made a statement that the High Commission was not involved.
But in fact, the point
till some other information comes out, we'll have to do that.
But the point I'm making is a bigger one. For Rahul Gandhi to even wonder whether the High Commission had facilitated it, presumes that the High Commission has the capacity to do so. And he can only think that if it's done something similar during your time in power.
No, the point is, if I go there, and I'm not associated with in any way with the ISI, or the Pakistan Army, or their Ministry of Home, who do I go through? I go through the External Affairs Ministry or the High Commission.
Except to presume that an Indian embassy or High Commission can facilitate a meeting with Hafiz Saeed is to presume it's done it before. And that's why Rahul Gandhi's question was not inept, but it was a boomerang. It affected the way people thought of him.
No, I don't know. I don't know whether people think. I think this is something that has to be gone into and see who is behind this. How did he make contact when nobody is allowed to go in and out of the house without the ISI and the Pakistan Army or the Ministry of Home? Somebody he is in touch with, and those people are inimical to India.
Let me sum this particular up by asking you one question. Do you, as Deputy Leader of the party in the Lok Sabha, believe that Congress has handled the Hafiz Saeed Vedic issue effectively and properly, or do you think you accept that there were some lapses?
No, I think we have brought it out in the Lok Sabha and in the Rajya Sabha. As you say, maybe it was too harsh, which Anand has mentioned. But I think he's certainly expressed my feelings, and he's certainly expressed feelings of lots of other Indians who would like this to happen to this fellow.
So, despite your numbers, are you saying to me that you are being an effective opposition?
Oh yes, absolutely. I think we are on every matter we are up and challenging, and we are discussing every issue. I don't think there's even 1% feeling anywhere that we are not doing our job.
Captain Singh, let's come to the budget. In his speech, the Finance Minister said India is exasperated with the status quo. The country unhesitatingly desires to grow. And he added, bold steps are needed to enhance economic activity. Does the Congress party agree with those thoughts and sentiments?
Are these bold decisions? I mean, all of them are decisions, which is a decision that the UP hadn't taken. So you're saying all your major issues on Narega or the Food Security Act and what the provisions are made are all our decisions.
So you're saying
the only bold thing he made is they're going to make a 200-foot statue of Sardar Patel. What else have they done?
So you're saying to me that these sentiments are not validated by the measures he announced in the budget. The budget was weak. These statements may sound bold, but the budget was weak.
Absolutely. Maybe next year they do something, but at the moment, nothing.
Let's then come to some of the initiatives the Finance Minister announced. I'd like to take you through 2 or 3 of them one by one. To begin with, he's announced an Expenditure Management Commission to cut expenditure and subsidies. And in an interview to me last Saturday, he said that in his February budget, he would accept its interim recommendations and we would see expenditure and subsidies being cut. Would Congress accept that, or would you oppose a cut in subsidies?
I don't certainly accept a cut in subsidies. Now I'll tell you why. For instance, fertilizer, pesticide, these are subsidized. Food prices are not going up the way we should, the purchase prices. They should. And so that the farmers compensated. So here are the little compensations which are given. Now you brought the diesel prices are rising every day. That's what's being used in Punjab. Fertilizer prices are rising, and if you cut the subsidy, the fertilizer prices are going to jump. And this is going to affect everybody. Except
for the fact that just 2 years ago when Pranab Mukherjee was your finance minister, he made a commitment in his budget speech that subsidies altogether must be capped at 2% of GDP. He failed to do it. But now when I hear you, I get the feeling even that target in your eyes is no longer worth meeting.
You know, you have to see what is the requirement of the poor of the country, which is 99%. I mean, you have to ensure that they get a fair deal, and we must provide whatever we can for them, and that is subsidy. There's no other way.
So Congress would oppose any cut in subsidies if it happens in February.
Yes,
I think so. In interviews last week, both Arun Jaitley and Nirmala Sitharaman said to me that labour law reform was a top priority for this government. They said that, in fact, the central government was pursuing the matter, a matter that was then confirmed by the Minister of State for Labour. But they also said that they would encourage state governments to take a leaf out of Vasundhara Raje Scindia's book and come up with their own state labour reforms. Now, labour reform is a commitment in the Congress manifesto. So do you endorse these sentiments?
Let's see what they do, what their proposal is going to be. And when that proposal comes to us, then we will certainly look. I think the Congress party has always supported anything which is pro-labour and to bring down, to give them a better deal. And I think let this report which they are promising, let them come out. And I'm sure the state governments let them.
You're saying that you're waiting for their first steps to be taken so you can judge whether it's acceptable or not. But the funny thing is, Just 24 or 36 hours ago, the Haryana government has announced that they will do what Vasundhara Raje Scindia will do, and they are coming up with their own state-wise labour reform, copying in many ways Rajasthan.
Maybe. I have not read that, but certainly if this is what Mr. Huda wants, I'm sure he'll do it.
But the
if
point
he thinks that law which is coming out in Rajasthan is good, then let him do it.
But is there dissonance between the position taken by Congress at the centre and Congress in Haryana?
No, but you have your state laws and you have your central laws. And here, if it's the states who have to do it, then let the states do it.
So the Congress party,
and the Congress will take a national stand.
So the Congress party in Delhi has no problem to state chief ministers from Congress doing their own reforms?
We never had. I mean, when I was chief minister, we never had. We did exactly what we thought was in the interest of my state. Didn't I do that Water Act?
So if Mr. Huda wants to do labour reforms in Haryana, like Vasundhara Raje Scindia is doing in Rajasthan, he can go ahead.
He can go ahead, and then when the national law or something which is adopted by our party comes about, then perhaps they will have to change. If our party insists that we fall in line at a central level, then the states will also do it. Maybe we may leave it to the states.
So there's quite a lot of flexibility on labour law reform as far as Congress is concerned.
Yeah.
Let's come to areas where in fact this new government is trying to change the status quo. To begin with, they want to increase caps in insurance to 49%. Now that's something Dr. Manmohan Singh tried for 9 years to do but failed. So if this government actually brings a bill in the Rajya Sabha where they don't have the numbers, will Congress support them and ensure that insurance caps are raised?
I can't speak on this because that I think a cap on whether it's on this or whether it's on the FDI or whether it's on the purchase or getting involved in this defense deals and all that sort of thing. I think these caps are necessary. Now the thing is, let them come. Let us see what they produce, and let us see.
But on
now the insurance
cap,
specifically, insurance cap. Let us see what they propose.
But they are proposing an increase from 26 to 49, which is something you wanted to do when you were in power. You couldn't. You failed. Now, if they are doing it, the question is: will you do a flip flop and oppose them, or will you support them?
Don't forget one thing. We were a UPA. We had many parties with us, and you had to carry every party with you. Mrs. Gandhi had a very difficult. She was the chairman of our party, a UPA, and you have to carry a left. You've got to carry right.
But that was then. What about now?
Now I don't know. Let us see what the stand goes.
So the Congress hasn't made up its mind whether it will support an increase in insurance caps as yet. You're waiting to find out more.
We're waiting to find out more. Certainly, as I said, I've been missing the last week, so I don't know.
That apart, you want to know more before you make up your mind.
Absolutely. What does it mean in real terms from 26 to 49? How does it come about? What is going to be the laws? What are going to be how is the act going to be framed?
So you want to know the full details before you announce your position.
Yes, absolutely.
Finally, the government also wants to amend the land acquisition bill so that the mandatory consent provisions are changed, to do away with the social impact assessment, to lift the ban on multi-crop land, and finally to change the definition of affected families who receive compensation. And the press says,
I totally disagree.
Totally disagree.
I'll tell you this. We've had this in Punjab, and we've seen this going. And I was the one who said that there has to be, you cannot just take it out without the permission of the farmer. Here, what Modi wants is to scrap the farmers and just do what he exactly wants, acquire anything for any industry and all, which I am not for at all.
So on this issue of amending the land acquisition bill, you're saying to me as deputy leader in the Lok Sabha, Congress will not support it?
How can we support it? I mean, a man has 2 acres of land, and without any asking, you just take it over and pay him whatever you want, and that's it.
Now, where in fact Mr. Modi will need your support to amend land acquisition is in the Rajya Sabha. In the Rajya Sabha, your 68 members will vote against amendments to land acquisition.
I'm going to talk to the leaders. I'll talk to Ghulam Nabi Azad. I'm going to talk to Anand Sharma. I'll talk to my party president. I'm going to tell them that this is certainly not acceptable, the way it's being put around. Particularly for a state like Punjab, we are a 100% agriculture state. Suddenly somebody comes and 50,000 acres are taken away. Do you know what they're doing for these big power plants? They are taking 10,000, 12,000 acres when you need not even 1,000 acres. So poor farmers and poor people are being thrown off their lands.
So I want to sum up. You believe this is bad for Punjab, but you also believe land acquisition amendments will be bad for the country. Congress will oppose it, full stop.
Punjab, I'm saying, because I belong to Punjab. But otherwise, it's for the whole country. We've got farmers in the entire country. It's bad for them. You can't just take over a farmer's land just like that because you want to give Tata something or Birla something or somebody else something. That is no answer.
Capt Amarinder Singh, a pleasure talking to you.